Welcome, everybody. I am Neil Cavuto, and you remember when courts were ruling, Mr. President, you can't just freeze these deportations, millions of them. They really have to resume. Well, now we've got some numbers out that show they're very low. Deportations are extremely low. In fact, the odds of you being shipped back if you snuck in are about the best they have ever been. Yet Hillary Clinton on the stump saying not good enough. In fact, her boss, her old boss, has been a little too stringent and a little too tough. Take a listen. Oop, I apologize. Anyway, that is not music to the ears of Arizona Sheriff Paul Babio, who's obviously so angry right now. He's running for Congress. Not that everyone has to do that. You're reading that Hillary quote there. Sacramento County, California Sheriff joins us as well, Scott Jones. Scott, to you first. What she is saying is that obviously take account of violent people and all the rest, but that we are being a bit too harsh here. What do you make of that?
Well, I think, first of all, the people have to understand that even under this new priority enforcement program, which is the Secure Communities Light, and the federal government will tout that as the reason, at least in part, for some of the diminished deportations. The reality is, for both of those systems to work, detainer systems, which is the request from ICE to the local jails, have to work. And there is a complete failure. The folks that ICE has already decided they want to take custody of are getting out before ICE can get down to the jails because of the unwillingness of local facilities all across this country to hold folks past their release date.
What I worry about, Sheriff, is that if Hillary Clinton is saying that her old boss isn't being harsh enough or tough enough, or too tough, I should say, and he hasn't really been that tough, as I said, effectively freezing millions of deportations on top of what I'm told by guys like you was a go-slow approach to deportations prior. Wow. What does that mean?
Well, I can tell you what it means. It means that we're going to continuously descend into this abyss of no immigration enforcement at all. And hey, look, I mean, my job and my oath is to protect the citizens of Sacramento County, like all sheriffs in this country swore an oath. And I can't do that. I can do that far less effectively for the undocumented population that commits crimes than I can for their American counterparts. And that means there's something wrong with this system.
You know, Sheriff, what two courts have essentially ruled that the president's attempts to freeze deportations, upwards of about 5 million, some say more, well, he just couldn't do it. Now, obviously, they've gone back and forth appealing this, but the fact of the matter is courts have said, no, that's taken a huge leap and you can't do it. So here is my question for you. If they have not resumed deportations, and you were telling me prior we weren't going at a gangbusters pace anyway, then what does this mean if, let's say, Hillary Clinton becomes president, and she found that approach was too harsh? Then what?
Well, look, first of all, you have to understand that none of this is for public safety. It's for political gain. Look how fast that the Obama administration appealed this. They were in court in days appealing that decision. Yet the one case decision in Clackamas County, Oregon, that created this leadership vacuum where the ACLU stood in and threatened every sheriff's department, which is why nobody now honors ICE detainers. They are unwilling to challenge that or even take a stance against it.
Well, but I'm just saying, it seems like a waste of time no matter what the court says. Sheriff, that has got to make your job trickier. I guess it explains why you want to settle this in Congress. But even with Congress getting as aggressive as it has on this and questioning the legality of doing this, I'm just wondering where it goes. What do you think?
Well, I think
Sheriff Babio to that first. Sheriff Babio to that first. Go ahead.
Sure.
Well, obviously, the president doesn't care about what the laws are, what Congress passes. With a wave of his hand, he seems to have gained the power through the power grab of the executive branch to suddenly stop enforcing the law. And I want Hillary Clinton to look Steve Ronenbach and Sabine Durden and Marianne Mendoza and the countless other American parents whose children have been killed, have been murdered by these criminal illegals who have been released, and ask them if it's too tough to deport these criminal illegals. This is unconscionable. And these leaders of our country, Barack Obama, Jay Johnson, former Eric Holder, all these guys should be accomplices in these crimes because they knowingly released murderers into our communities, people with dangerous criminal records into our communities.
But Hillary did make an exception for that. She makes none of the fact that we obviously have to separate those that were dangerous. But we're not even doing that, right? I mean, if I'm reading correctly, Scott Jones, we're not even doing that. We're not doing the kind of stuff to take care of felons and violent people to which she alluded. We're not even doing that minimum.
We are, my folks, my partners over at ICE tell me that in-custody arrests in California are down 95%, which means everybody that comes in, we don't have access to ICE's database, so we really don't even know who people are. And they bail out and they get out, and before ICE can even get down to the jail and get them, because we can no longer honor ICE detainers. Make no mistake about it, this is not a legal issue. This is a policy issue that this administration, that permeates all branches, law enforcement branches of the executive branch. This is a policy level decision. To answer your question, it will not change unless and until we get leadership with courage and the conviction to enforce the laws that are already there.
Now, Paul, I know, and I apologize, gentlemen, I didn't realize you were both sheriffs, so my apologies for confusing you. But Paul, so I'll just call you first name, very presumptuous.
Yes.
But Paul, I know you want to run for Congress. You want to change this tone in Washington. The House is not exactly endorsing what the president's doing. It has fought him tooth and nail on this kind of issue. So what makes you think you're going to make a difference? One more guy.
We're going to have a new president as well, and I thank God for that, is because we need members of Congress that actually understand this issue.
Don't? Then you're wasting your time, right?
Well, here's the thing. We demand that the president, whoever it is, doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat, because there's so many who have lied to us and have broken their promises once they get in. But Congress needs to stand up for itself and say, we are the lawmaking body, and you have sworn an oath to enforce the law, and you need to do it. And we hold them accountable as well.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you both, and my apologies for confusing you. That was all my bad.
Thanks, Neil.
Rarely do I have two sheriffs on at the same time, so I was honored. All right, in the meantime, you've probably heard that Donald Trump, who has made a huge issue out of this issue, has said that he's running and going all the way. I talked to his son earlier on Fox Business. He also says, yeah, Dad's in it for the long haul. We're not giving up on that. Eric Trump convinced that his father will be president on January 20th. 2017. Marco Rubio said, no, that ain't going to happen, and no way in heck he's ever going to be our nominee. Gina Loudon then says, if Trump is in it to win it, she buys it. Sherry Jacobus says he could be out before Iowa. Sherry, ye of little faith. Well, why do you see him not finishing this?
Well, we've got a couple of debates to go before that time, and I don't think that the rise that he had enjoyed before can be sustained. If you look at the Real Clear Politics, top 6 polls averaged out, the Donald has dropped by, he's lost almost 25% of his support just in the past month. So the arrows are going the wrong way for him.
Well, is he in the lead or is he not in the lead? Gina, you argue, well, every single poll that's come out, he's on top.
And there are going to be fluctuations in polls, and I think it's the candidate that doesn't panic. You know, Neil, when you watch this whole rodeo happen, it's kind of hard to decide whether Donald Trump is the most entertaining or whether it's more entertaining watching people sort of squirm after they've underestimated him once again. So I don't know if that's the side I'd want to be on. I don't think you can guess where Donald Trump is going to go downward, because he hasn't so far.
All right, but there is something what Jerry was saying, and I want you to expound a little bit of it, that he's hit his ceiling. Now, many candidates hit a ceiling. I mean, even Ronald Reagan hit a ceiling because there are other candidates still in the race. I guess your thinking is, as other candidates presumably drop out, Jerry, he could take advantage of that, or his opponents, the remaining opponents, could.
Well, some of that means if those people that are supporting other candidates were going to go to Donald Trump, I think they would have by now. He's hit his ceiling, and we see his numbers going the opposite way. In one poll, we have Carson ahead of him. We've got Trump dropping from 16 points ahead down to 5 in New Hampshire, which is the first primary state. He's also dropped in Iowa, the first caucus state. So his numbers are going in the wrong direction. He also, I don't believe, really wants to spend his own money. He's gotten all this media attention.
Well, he doesn't need to.
Well,
he's done all this, I dare say, without spending much money at all.
He's gotten about $50 million in free media that the others haven't. He's gotten more media attention than all the other candidates combined. If there was any other candidate that spent $50 million on media,
and they were ahead, you don't like Donald Trump. You didn't from the beginning.
If somebody had spent that money and they were ahead, we wouldn't be blinking an eye. So that's going to start dropping.
But Sherry, come on. He's had 40-some-odd polls. He's on top in almost every single one of them.
Well, and he's dropping.
And you never liked him from the beginning. So I think our
no,
biases are showing.
That's not true. I actually defended him initially after his announcement when there was some confusion about his immigration issue. But after that, he seems to have a hard time articulating his position, which gives him on anything.
Oh, Sherry, I love you dearly, but Gina, as if
I don't have a reason to come back and say I never said that.
All right.
So he
but
keeps
as
kind of
if
getting
candidates
caught.
who've articulated positions have been richly rewarded in the polls. Talk to Jeb Bush, who's tried that with tax policy. Talk to Chris Christie, who's tried that with a Social Security plan. It hasn't worked. Gina, what do you think?
I completely agree with you, Neil. And even clear down to those saying that he's going to get out, it just proves to me that the sort of the voting populace out there that loves Trump is looking at this whole thing going, they still don't get it. And it just solidifies that Trump support and that Trump base that I think is going to stand strong.
But you know what? It's just that base. It's not growing. It's going in the other direction. And as, again, when other candidates drop out, and now the electorate is getting serious. The Republicans that are voting are going to get serious. We want somebody who is electable. Donald Trump is the only...
Trump has gotten serious.
Let me finish. Donald Trump is the only top-tier Republican in the field that Hillary trounces. The others beat her in polls,
she doesn't
in national
trounce him as much.
polls.
The latest poll I saw showed her leading by 5 points.
His negatives are too high.
Right.
He's not electable.
And
He's fun to watch right
Sherry,
now, but that's about it.
Okay.
Again,
Ladies,
Sherry, it does depend on which polls you look at, to be sure.
Very true. And they said the same about
nationally.
They said the same about Millard Fillmore. Remember that. I have no idea if they said that about Millard Fillmore. Ladies, thank you very, very much. All right, Hillary Clinton, I guess what's that they say about the best defense is a darn good offense? Well, on this whole Benghazi thing, thanks to one Kevin McCarthy, guess who's on offense after this?